And we're back. Rabbi Eliezer Omer. Rabbi Eliezer says, "Be'ezo Torah shavsa behema lo below the behema." In what Indian was the animal compared to a bird, and the bird compared to the animal? Lomer lecha chulin 27b. Lomer lecha, to say to you, coming at you guys from the beautiful Sipari. Lomer lecha, to say to you, ma ovru av min atzavar av behema hukshra min atzavar. What's the comparison from animal to bird? That they're both get the shchita from the neck. Oh, tzava, we're looking for neck words. That's another one, obviously, tzava. And oref is the back of the neck. Savar is really just like the whole neck. And then the front of the neck is the garon. So we have a lot of different words for necks. They say this is a neck and that's a neck.
This one, that one.
This one, that one. No, so in English you say, oh yeah, it's all necks. But we really have a word. It's important in Lashon HaKodesh to have a word for each of the part of the neck. And I'm sure in English they also get into it. Okay, so av behema hochshura minar. So too the animal was cut from the neck. Ima lahala mimula oref adkan mimula oref. If you're gonna say just like is mula oref by chalika, by malika, sorry. So also on this one you should say that to the shchita from the back of the neck, right? How do you know front? Always say savar, neck. How do we know front? How do we know neck?
From Malika.
So maybe it's from the back of the nose. So Tambalomar Umalak as Rojo Mimul Orvo Velo Yavdil Rojo. You do the cut in the cut in the back of the neck of the bird. Velo Yavdil Rojo, and don't separate his head. Shelzet Mimul Oref. Ve'ein Rojo Shel Acher Mimul Oref. Umalak es Rosho, maybe they're inferring. You cut his neck, you malika to his neck, mimul orfo. Learn from that pasuk that only malika is mimul haoref. Only malika is on the back of the neck, under the part that is across from the face. So from here, I mean, that's the makom, the makom shrita in the neck. Sorry, the makom malika in the boyd's neck is mul haoref, and the part across from the face of the bird. Yo, we're in Sipori, NBD. Mina davar av beheba ochshara mina tzavar. So also an animal of the neck, and if you're going to think, wait a second, maybe it would be from the back of the neck. It says malak es rosho, that neck is from the back of the neck. Ve'ein rosho shel acher, rosho shel zeh, this face, his head, from the back of the neck, is cut the head of anything else. Mimul oref. Nothing else is in the back of the neck. For Rabbi Eliezer, and Rabbi Eliezer says, Hi, Zois, my avile. This Zois. When it says Zos Torah Sabehema, this is the Torah of the animal and the boy. what does he do with that pasuk? The Chachamim wanted to darshan zos. Rabbi Eliezer darshan got it from somewhere else, had a different opinion. So what does he do with the zos? My avidle lav zos. If he didn't have zos, if he didn't have the pasuk zos, hava amina ma of b'siman echad avema b'siman echad. So I think that we're going to compare it completely even and make kosher all the shchita. Shalom Abishilo. We're here in Tzipori. Rabbi Yossi ben Chalifta was the Rosh Yeshiva back in the day. So good to see ya. So now we saw the Gemara, and now it's time to see the Heliga. The Rashi. Okay. So what have we been talking about? We're in the second parak. We could do another chazah. The Gemara is in the Mishnah. The Gemara says, "Ashogeit echad ba'of." You shecht one with the v'shnayim v'hema, two of the pipes with an animal. Shchitazo keshera. The shchita is kosher. V'rubo shel echad kamahu, and the robe of that shchita is considered completely cut. You cut the majority. You cut complete. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, and we actually saw that in the neck of the bird, there is, aside from a trachea and esophagus, there are also there are two, at least two veins, and so Rabbi says you got to cut them, and we have to see why only on the ov. If it's only on the ov, we'll see. We haven't gotten to that part yet in the Gemara. If you do chetzi echad, half of one in an ov, not good enough. Chetzi, 1.5 in an animal, shchitazo pesula. Rov echad ba'oper rov shteig v'hema, shchitazo kasher. If you did the majority of one in a bird, and the majority of two in the animal, it's kosher. That's the Mishnah. So, how do we know? So we've been talking about how do we know that shchita is from the neck, right? How do we know that when you do shchita, you're going from the neck? Why not the nose? Why not the ear? Why not the tail? Why not the heart? Why not stabbing it until it bleeds out? Now, obviously, we know it's not nice to the animal, so the Torah wouldn't say to do it like that. But it's tzar b'chayim to do it like that. But we have to know, how do we know it's from the neck? So the Haidana and this following Tana, Maisi La Mehacha, he brings it from here. And we don't know what is Maisi La Mehacha. What's it? Just says it. And so I wanted to say that the law, it brings it, the fact that she is from the neck. Zog Rashi, Maisi La Mehacha, Sheshchita Min HaMakom, Sheshchita Min HaTzavar. Nice. The shchita is from the neck. Great. So how do we know? Because it says in a brisa, this is the brisa in Nida, Zos Toras Abehema Ve'aof. This is the Torah of a behema, the behemoth, and the oof, and the wait. V'chi be'ezeh Torah shavsa behema la'of be'of behema. Those Torahs behema says Rashi le'el minei ayri b'tumas nevela. So above that point, it was actually talking about the tumah, the impurity of the nevela. When was a bird compared to a behemoth? We know that a bird and a behemoth, they're both animals. They are both have kosher and non-kosher. And the kosher ones, the non-kosher ones, what are they compared to? It says the behema and the, this is the Torah of the animal and the bird. We go to Leviticus 11:46. And it says, this is the end of Parshat Hazriah. It says, Zos Torasa behema v'ha'of. This is the of the animal and the bird. V'kol nefesh achaya haromeshes al aretz. All of the, the nefesh. When we talk about the word nefesh, we go into it. She was all nefesh. So yeah, soul or that's a life. Nefesh achaya. Not stam words. Nefesh achaya haromeshes al mayim v'chol nefesh hashoretzes al aretz. And also every soul that kind. So haromeshes in the water, that swims in the water and crawls in the earth. Lahavdil bein hatame ubein hatahor. So we have to distinguish between the impure and the pure, kosher, not kosher and kosher, bein chaya hanecheles, the chaya that you can eat, ubein chaya asher lo se'achel, the animal that we should not eat, meaning non-kosher animal. Ov mitame begadim abezabelia, mitame begadim abezabelia. The animal does not impurify the begadim when you eat it, but the ov does. So then what are they compared to? You tell me that the animal is compared to the bird. What are they compared to? In what regards? So they're not compared in their tuma, because a behema is mitame when you touch it or carry it, but a bird is mitame when you touch it and carry it. Ov eno mitame malgamas because it says l'tama ein lecha ela ma sha'amor ba lo yachel l'tame ba. Nevela v'treva lo ye'achel l'tamei ba, l'tama ba. Nevela and treva don't eat it to become impure. It. Pasuk in Vayikra Chaf Beis Ches. It says l'tama ba, and so we say shnab l'tamei in it in the behema, but it doesn't say anything about the oaf, and so we learned it's only a behemoth. And so look, you're telling me that the behemoth and the oaf, the behemoth and the bird are compared. I'll tell you that you see here that when it comes to how they ritual impurity, they're completely different. Behemoth ain't a medai beza belia. If your friend, right, some friend comes over and throws some meat down your throat, shoves it down your throat. So if it's an impure bird and a person swallows it, it's tamei. I just talk about a friend coming and putting it. If you eat an impure bird, you become tamei. Your clothes become tamei. If you eat an impure animal, you don't. But the question that I had was, okay, you don't become tamei eating the impure animal, but don't you become tamei touching or even carrying the impure animal? So what's the case where, what does it mean that it's not tamei based on belia? If you swallow, if you eat, if you consume, isn't touching part of consumption? But they say the oaf is mitame when you consume it, and the animal is not mitame when you consume it. So basically, why isn't the animal mitame when you consume it? It says in tachvelo chavero, if your friend threw it down your throat. Oh, wow, that's the answer. If someone's just coming and eating it, so yeah, obviously he would become tame by touching it, and putting it in his mouth. But if your friend throws it down your throat, so maybe it doesn't tame you yet until like you already swallowed it, and so that from the inside, so it's a way to avoid getting tame from eating an impure animal. Having it thrown down your throat, but not suggested method. Maybe also the animal will be mitame when you swallow it. Don't eat it but don't eat it to become impure in it. So something that only has tuma with his when it gets eaten, aka impure bird, not kosher bird. Nevela, maybe like a non-shechted properly bird. So it's mitame when you eat it. So that comes and excludes the oath. It excludes the bird that had tuma from before you eat it. It's like you touch it. So that's another way that birds and animals are different. They're not being compared to each other. So be'ezeh Torah shavsa behema la'ov. But it says be'ezeh Torah shavsa behema la'ov. So this one they're not. And when it comes to tumah, the ways they're tumah are different. So what are the ones that are compared? Asks the Gemara again. Behema la'ov, ve'ov, behema. Omer lecha, to say to you, ma behema b'shchita, av'ov b'shchita. What we find by an animal that needs to be shechted, so too by a bird, it needs to be shechted. Boyd. Shout out Dave Boyd. Hold on, let me get my man ready. Oh my man, they're getting mad at me. I just had to put a couple smashes out. Alright. Anyway. LeBron is nodding. Okay. So the bird and the animal, what are they compared to? That just like the bird is with shchita, so to the animal, just like the animal is with shchita, so to the bird is with shchita. That's how to take it out of being a nevela. Because it's written v'shachat as ben abakar, and you shechted the son of a cow, I think, or bull. Bakar, cattle. Son of a bull. Ben bakar. I think. I know. Okay. So Ben Bakar will be the shachar is Ben Bakar. It says to do shchita to the Ben Bakar. That's a pasuk in Parshas Vayikra. So amazing. We've really been talking a lot about Parshas Vayikra this week. Shchita. V'shachat as Ben Bakar. Shech, the son of a cow. So okay, you wanna. The Gemara doesn't even let 1 second go by. And it says, wait a second. If you're going to compare birds to animals vis-a-vis shchita, so I'll tell you, compare birds to animals completely for shchita, and say that they both say, just like an animal, you have to do the majority of 2 of the pipes. Afghan here also berov shnayim, the majority of 2 pipes. Tamalomar zeis. So Tamalomar zos. No zos Torah zebeheba. So ma behema b'shchita we learn. So ima behema berov shnayim. The itzrich la'el we said above that we need the rabbos as a rosh kvar hutas to include the head that was already chopped off. The ibisim and echad lav hutas kariyale. That if it's with 1 siman, it's not called that, like the head is really taken. It's not really called like chopped off. Below it's the rich l'rabi, and we don't need to include it. So we say that zos is the miot. It's saying that zos toras abehema v'ha'of, that they both have shchita, but not zos toras abehema v'ha'of, the amount of pipes they have to cut in the shchita. Rabbi Elazar Omer, I malahalan, berov shnayim, afka berov shnayim. So it says the Gemara, if you're going to say that they have to do majority of 2, Tamalomar zos. It says zos, that's the only halacha that we're learning, that they both need. So that's the comparison, that they compared. What up, Adam? So the only halacha, the only thing that we compare a animal to is that they both need shchita, but not the fact that not the way we do the shchita, because by a bird we need 1 pipe, and by an animal we need 2 pipes. Rov 1, rov shtayim. Rabbi Eliezer Omer, be'ezo Torah shavsa behema la'of. What was the comparison of behemoth to bird and bird to behemoth? Amar lecha, lomer lecha, to tell you, ma of huchshru min hatzavar, just like the chicken, it becomes kosher from the neck, so af behema huchshru min hatzavar. Wow, the oaf huchshru from the neck is the oaf that becomes huchshru from the neck. It's talking about malika. That's where we learn it out from. Oh, you want to compare the animal to the bird. We're going to learn it from the bird back to the animal. The bird gets malika, and that's the neck. So to the animal segment should be from the neck. As the Gemara, then check the animal from the back. Says the Gemara, amiyot. Oso, malak os, malak rosho. His rosh goes from the back, but no other rosh goes from the back of the neck. But we can learn the neck part from the chicken. That's what Rabbi Eliezer wants to say by malika. So zos miutu ma ovokshuru min hatzavar, just like a bird was kosher from the tzavar, malika. So abem okshuru min tzavar shchitaza. So malika, right, by the bird for the kachim, and shchita on the animal. V'hainu the amra, like we said, v'tana maisi la mehacha, and the Tana brings it from here. Okay, so ask the Gemara. Oh, are you going to do it every time? Like, you're going to learn it out. You're going to learn out from Malika. You're going to learn out that also Shchita is in the back of the neck. Talmud Lomar Umalak es Rosho Mimul or Fo neck from the back of his head from the back of his neck. V'lo Yavdil Rosho. V'lo Yavdil, and don't separate them. Rosho Shel Zeh Mimula Orev. This guy's from the back of the neck. The Malika Vein Rosho Shel Acher Mimula Orev, but no one else's head is from the back of the neck. Okay. Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Eliezer, hi Zos, my Adlai. Rabbi Eliezer, this Zos, what's he going to learn out from it? Zog Rashi, Zos, my Avidlai. Kevan de Of Lav mi Behema Yalef, because we didn't learn bird from animal. Ella Behema mi Of, rather, according to Rabbi Eliezer, we learned animal from bird, that the shchita is in the neck, from Malika. So what's he going to do? So we learned it from a different pasuk. He learned it from Malika and backwards. So then what's he going to do with this? Zos Torahs habehema ve'haof. Answers the Gemara. Ilav Zos. If Rabbi Eliezer didn't have that Zos hava amina, I would have thought to say ma'of b'simin echad, af behema b'simin echad. Just like a oaf is a simin echad. So do behema is simin echad. Shalom, wise guides. Just like an oaf is simin echad, so do behema is. You would think that I should compare the animal to the boyd. I should compare the animal to the boyd, right? And compare it completely. Also the neck, and also from the back of the neck. The fact that it's in the neck, and even a specific placement in the neck, says the Gemara, Zos, Torah, Behema, Ve'of. If it didn't say Zos, I would have thought to say, compare it even that a behema would be kosher with only one siman. I'm just going to break. So that's why Torah says Zos. Because it says by the Chatas, the end of Parshas Vayikra, V'lo Yavdil, and don't split it, right? Zos b'mayit shalo l'chol divreihem hukshu. The Zos says that they're not compared to everything. El l'davar echad. This neck. Why are they compared? Neck. Reason. But not for anything else. Not the placement within the neck. Just the fact, neck. Okay. Because we're on a Zos. The Pasuk says Zeis. Says, I want to see this Tosos. Be'ezet Torah shavsa behema la'of. For which, for which Indian was an animal compared to a bird? So it's a Gemara in Zvachim, and it says as follows. They make a drasha. Dashina mina ma behema machshiro le'achila mitayer treifata mitumaza av of. Wow. So Tosfos tartish mamina. So we learned about this of from a behema. We learned a different halacha from this comparison. A different thing from the comparison of a bird to an animal. Here we learned one comparison of bird to an animal, and there we learned a different comparison of a bird to an animal. Over here and over there. Here we learn just like the animal, the thing that makes it kosher for eating it is mitayr the treifa from its tuma. So I don't know exactly what that is. I don't know if it's vachamami, but it's okay. Tosfos' question is that we learn another halacha from this comparison of an animal to a bird. Really, we're only allowed to learn one. And it's Tosfos, Tarti, Shma Mina. We learn them both. So how can we learn them both? We're going to learn one thing from one diak, but here there's two elements to this diak. There's the animal and there's the chicken. And so the bird and the animal. So we compare the bird and the animal. We can learn two things. We can learn one halacha from the bird side and one halacha from the animal side, maybe. Sarach Ian. Next part of the Gemara, Chavzai Rabbi Beis, go and veiter, Tani, Bar Kabar says, those Torahs the Behema V'Alif. This is the Torah of the animal and the bird. The pasuk put the bird between animals and fish. This is what we've been talking about and referencing a lot. But this is it, and it's amazing to be learning this law in no other place than Sipori. The bird's shining moment in Torah. This is the bird's most gewaldig thing, or up there. So what does it say? Those Torahs abehema ve'ha'of, and then afterwards the pasuk says, and all of the nefesh that's in the water, that's swimming, all the swimming. So we're like, okay, so we talked about animal, we talked about bird, and then we talked about swimmer. Talked about water creature. Hitil hakasav la'of bein behema l'dagim. The kasav, the verse, the Torah put bird between animal and fish. V'chayavo b'shnei siman, to obligate him into signs, into pipes, and esophagus. It's EFJR to do that. Shekavar hugash l'dagim, because it was already compared, right? Because the bird was already compared to fish. The potro below klum, to say they didn't need anything impossible. Shekavar hugash, the behemoth was already compared to an animal. Haketzai, what do you do? And so, what do? We have the middle path. We compromise. Dagim delav b'nei shchitin in huminolan. So the Gemara says, okay, well, how do you know that fish don't need any shchita at all? If it's written that the flock and the cattle, you shach for them, im ezkol tagehayam, yeah, safe. And all of the fish, collect them. It's enough for them to just be collected. That's enough to make a fish kosher. Ella me'ata gabe shlav. But what about pheasant? A question from pheasant. Dichsiv yasfu as a shlav, and they collected the pheasant. Hachinami delav b'shchita. Here too, that it's not with shchita, with shechting. V'ha amar the potro b'velo klum. And that which you said to say that it doesn't need anything. It's already compared to an animal. Lo kesiva asiva b'makom shchita. So it needs an asifa. What if someone just shoves it down your throat and you never collected it? I don't know. Someone collected it though. So it's right. Dachrini aga kesivi asiva b'makom shchita dachrini. Okay. Kidoki. Okay. Time for the Rashi. Hey. So where were we? Which Rashis? Which things? Oh, bad nefesh. Just kidding. Just kidding. Tadi Bar Kapara. No, we're do Tadi Bar Kapara. That's where we're at. Wow, Bar Kapara. So I like Bar Kapara. I like every single person in the Gemara, all the Tanai, of course. But I like Bar Kapara because he was from the Golan, and so Tani Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara says those Torahs of Behema ve'of. This is the Torah of Behema ve'of. Hitler because of the oaf bein Behema l'dagim, because the puzzle continues and everything that is swimming. So the water, so the fish. So the puzzle put the oaf between the animal and the fish. A behema ve'of v'kol nefesh chaya harameses b'mayim zog Rashi dakim. So the chayav of b'shnei simanim, to make him chayav like an animal, like a behema, in two simanim, the animal, the nafgala, miminyan, the rebels, is a rosh shekvar hutaz, right? So we have to get into this hutaz sugi, but the head has to be like removed or chopped off, but not completely, just the rove, the majority of two. If it's not a majority of two, it's not really considered the head was like even like a little chopped off. It's not even nearly headless neck. It's like barely headless neck. Aha, aha. I didn't laugh at my own jokes. Yeah, but we can't say that it needs two because it's compared to fish. The love b'nei shchita nenu, they are not son of a shchita. Come, like we will see coming shortly. Coming shortly. Haga kasiva asefa. Okay, so Kapara says, so what do? Give him one. But first, the Gemara says, wait a second, how do we know that fish are not meant to be shechted? So, hacha kasiva asiva. So it's written, asiva of the fish, says Rashi, it's compared in the same verse to the collecting of the fish and the slaughtering of an animal. And from the fact that it changes from the speech, so we see from the fact that it's saying go and shech the animals and collect the birds, we see that it's collect the fish, that it means specifically collect that fish. It's a game show where you gotta collect fish. It's hosted by Kenny Townsend. So it's enough to just see for them. Wait. So where do we know that fish themselves? Asifa is enough. So the Gemara seems to say, oh yeah, well, it's a good point. Ella, rather, me'ata from now, gabe shlav, when it's talking about that they collected the shlav, the pheasant, the chsiva as a shlav, that they collected the shlav. Hakanami, the lav b'shchita, what? You're going to say, oh, all they need to be is collected, and they don't need to get the shlav, the pheasants that fell in the midbar. The lav b'shchita, v'ha amar the potro below klum, efshar shekvar hukash the behema. We can't give the bird nothing. We can't say that the bird has no shchita. So hazam lo kasiva asiva b'makom shchita. There, it didn't say collect them in the same pasuk where it's talking about shechting the animals. Shchita da'achrini, hacha kasiva asiva b'makom shchita da'achrini. So when it's talking about collecting the fish, it's in the same verse as the shchita. And where is that verse? Let me just find that voice real quick. Okay, it's Gimel. This is a pasuk in Bamidbar 11:22. It is 11:22 in the morning right now. 11:22. 11:49. Pretty close. Anyways, we're going to 11:22 in where? We're going to 11:22 in Divine. No, Bamidbar. Numbers in the desert. 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 In the desert, Bamidbar. Why do they call it numbers? And why do the guy call it numbers? Okay, actually, say for in the desert. In the desert. 11:22. Okay, so it says in the pasuk, "Vayomer Moshe." Moshe says, "Sheish me'os elef ragle ha'am asher anochi b'kirbo." There's so many feet. I'd have to be stomped by 80 men. Sorry, I'd have to be stomped by 40 men to suffer 80 feet. A defeat. Suffer a defeat. So Asher Anochi Mikirbo V'Adam Arda Bazar Ein Lahem V'Achlu Chodesh Damim. I say you don't have meat, you're going to eat for 30 days. Hatzon V'Bagar Yishachet Lahem. So they did have to shecht that stuff. V'Matzah Lahem Im Kol Degei Hayam Ye'asef Lahem Matzah. And also all of the fish collect. I just have one. Oh no, it was a question. Because what was my question? All the fish collect. What do you mean collect the fish in the midbar? I read there were fish in the water. So, all we have right now in my hand, I scroll for Chumash. And as the girl says, I wish we could see the Rashi. It says, say, can sheep and cattle be slaughtered for them and suffice for them? If all the fish were gathered for them, would it suffice for them? So it's Moshe just speaking hyperbole about Am Yisrael. Moshe was saying to Hashem, yo, the guys are such complaints, can't do anything good enough for them. If I got them all the fish if I got them all the fish and all the son and bakar. Right? So there it was talking about collecting the fish in the same verse that it was talking about shechting an animal. And learn from that asifa that the collection is enough. But when it comes to the pheasant, which is a bird, and it says collect them, we don't learn from that collection is enough because it's not in the verse talking about and contrasting it with the shchita, the slaughtering of an animal. Okay. Shkayach, guys, that was a very, very great Nikuda. And I don't know if I'm going to go further in the Gemara. I want to look at that idea why the bird gets one, because it's compared to both. Zos Torah Zabehema Veha'ov Ve Kol Chaya Haromeses Bamayim. It's compared to an animal that needs two signs, 2 pipes cut, and it's compared to also a fish that needs 0 pipes cut. Not that he had any, but it doesn't need shchita whatsoever. So we learn one, the average All right. So, ladies and gents, let's see a little time. You know, been through one page already of the second parak. It's time to see the riff. Hey, the riff. I'm about to rip through a riff. Okay. Hashochet, someone who shechts. Echad be'of, one in a bird, one siman in the bird. Vishnayim behema, and two in the animal. Shchitazo kasher. The rubo she'echad kamahu. Rabbi Yehuda and the majority of one is considered one. Rabbi Yehuda says ad sheyishchot es havridin. You got to cut the veins. Chetzi echad be'of v'chetzi the echad v'chetzi behema. So you have the majority of one in a bird, majority of one. Sorry, you have exactly half in a bird, 1.5 exactly in an animal. Shchitazo pesula. Get it out of here. Rov echad be'of v'rov shnayim behema. Shchitazo kashera. Majority of one in the animal, in the bird. Sorry, in the animal majority of 2, the bird majority of 1. Okay, let's just see the run. Hashochet. Echad be'of shnayim. The Gemara asks, "My time asagi le be'of bechad." Why is it enough that a bird can only have 1? Ubehema, but in a shnayim, the animal needs 2. I'm going to ask, and that's actually what we just saw. And the reason is because the bird is compared to the animal, compared to the fish. Rubo shel echad, shel kol echad v'echad. Each one, Gemara is going to ask, Shnayim v'hema, my eved. What do you mean? The eved shaykh. What do you mean? You're going to say, oh, just the eved to cut only 2? There only are 2. Kama yishchov v'yelech. What do you want to cut? 3? The 3 out of all 2. Umeshani iba is ema echad be'ov. If you want to say it's talking about the echad be'ov, kolomar d'lechatchila, you have to do both on the chicken, on the bird. Oh, the Riff, can you bring the charger, Riffic? Thanks. And also maybe a cigarette, please. The iba is aruvo shel echad kamoso. Yeah, just put it down.
Oh, you meant that.
No, I meant this. Perfect, thank you. And okay. So Iba is Eva Arubo Shel Echad Kamahu. So if you're going to say the majority of one, that it's like Kilaimar Lechatchila, it's Rabbanan Simanin Shalahem. Lechatchila, the rabbis needed you to do the Simanin Vahari Lishni Tarvayu Isnu Bein Ope Behemad Lechatchila Shnayim Shleimin Ba'inam V'lav Kidei Yetza Kol Hadam. You don't need all the blood to come out. The Begajim Bilchud Hu the Amrinan the Ladam Utzarech. Elam Shema Yifchos Min Hashiur Midrabanan Be'almahu T'ilu Mid'oraisa B'chol Makom Rubo Kikulo. D'oraisa in all places really rove is Kikulo. Below shiny lan B'techila L'di'evet. It doesn't matter L'techila B'di'evet. It's Banan. They're saying. You think we've arrived? Rivka, do you have any clanks or slime? Please. V'arayvid Rabbi Shmuel HaKohen. Oh, thank you. Thanks. So, we have a viewer on YouTube, on Facebook. Shalom, Facebook. Good. So, the Ravid Echmiru v'amru she'im lo shachat kol hasimanin tzarich l'chatcha. Wow. So the Ravid has an opinion that if you didn't cut the entirety of both, you have to still cut it while the blood is at. They're able to come on bevridin, like we say later. You have to cut the veins. The imlo azagate afilu be'of tzarich chatichas aver. If you don't do it like that, then you have to cut a chicken from limb to limb, and I don't really get that. Why would have to? It doesn't make any sense. Ve'evi raya midamrina b'gemara, brings the raya from what it says in the Gemara. Al kajim dal dam who b'tzarich eva lo tizgi le'ad ika kulei kamash balan the alva v'rov simanim eina yotze yafa zohi briyaza ve'ena mechraz. Hello, how are you? Okay. The rove of one is like it. That's already, we're going to see that on Daf Chaftez. But it's got to be the rove that we can see with our eyes. V'davka b'di'evet, avchatchila mibayle the mishchat kuli simnin. Specifically, b'di'evet. But really, lechatchila, you need to shecht all of the simanim. Wow. According to the Rif. The entire thing. Tani Bar Kapara. Bar Kapara teaches, I'm so happy we went to the Rif. Bar Kapara is teaching. Zoras habehema ve'ha'of. V'kol nevesh achaya haromeshes b'mayim. This is the Torah of the animal and the boy and every soul that is swimming in the water. That is zipping around. Zipping and zipping and zooping. In the Vaser. Haromeshes. So itilu hakas of the pasuk put the chicken, the bird, between animal and fish. The chayiv simanim, he couldn't do efshar, he couldn't do it with two siman because it's already compared to a fish. To make it putter, to make it doesn't need any shchita. Below podro, below klum. Low, efshar impossible. Shekuvar gash levehema. It was already compared to a behema. Oops. Already compared to an animal. Okay, so what do you do? We gave him the old one simon. This is called a cooperation, a collaboration, compromise. They're compromising. So it's already compared to dagim. Delav b'nei shchita ninu klal. That fish are not b'nei shchita at all. Not son of akat. Ninu klal mafkina begemar mishum zichsiva asiva didu b'makom shchita. So their asiva is said in the place of a shchita of someone else. Of achrini kitich like it says in Bamidbar, like we just saw 11:22. Hatzom v'gar yishchat lahem v'matzah lahem is called dagei ayam yasov lahem umatzah lahem. So we learn all this out from really just Moshe complaining to Hashem about Klal Yisrael. Moshe's comparison, Moshe's hyperbole became Deraisa. Moshe said, "Oh, and if I'm Israel, they'll never be happy, this nation. Even if I got them all the animals and shechted for them, even if I gathered all the fish for them." And we're like, "Oh, we see from Moshe is complaining in his hyperbole, but we still see that animals get shechted and birds get collected. Question now is, why didn't we use pasuk to say that this is the makor? Where do we learn shchita? You have to do shchita on an animal, and this could have been like a very, but they went to a v'shachat, right? Ki yarchik mimcha davar. That's the real makor. But is also, it also shows that an animal is v'shchita. Umidishani kra b'diburei ksibu aziz shmamina davkahu. So it specifically gets one as compared to 0 as compared to 2. 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1. Okay, so that was the Rif and the Ran. Shkoyach. Now it is time to see der Heilige. Now it's time to see the Heilige Masha. Ma. Not. It doesn't say. Okay, there is a Marsha in Mahadura Basra. I don't know what Mahadura Basra is. I mean, it's not the Marsha, it's someone else. Mahadura Basra means the second version. So is it also Marsha? The second version of Marsha? Let's see the shar. Mahadura Basra. Nope. Mahadura Basra is Rabbeinu Moshe Yitzchak ben Rabbi Bunim, the Av Bezin of Lublin, the son-in-law of Marsha. Okay. So the son-in-law of the Marsha, Mahadura Basra, he says about shchita minat savar nami gamrinan, that the shchita for the neck, we learn it, and Rashi achi garsid under the su. Chav Zayin. This is 27a. So we go to 27a. And we're talking about how do we know that shchita is from the savar. So Rashi says achi garsid and the su. So where is this Rashi? So Shihir Drasa Chalada, all of those things. And there's below and we don't say, and according to your reasoning, it's just another question. When we were saying, how do we know Shchitas from the Tzavar? All these questions, how do you know it's not from the nose? Well, we need blood that the soul leaves with, and you don't have nose, or the ear, or the tail. But also, this whole idea of that you have these 5 things, Shihir Drasa Chalada Hagram Minalan. How do we learn that? So then also shchita from the neck is halach l'moshe misinai. So Rashi says, so the Madur Bas is kasha. So a little bit of a question on this Rashi. My tzarich lomar de shchita min atzavar hu halach l'moshe misinai. Why do we need to say that it's halach l'moshe misinai? Ke ishkachan tanayim diapina mikrai. Since in the end of the day we actually do learn it from Tanaim that learned it from Bazuk. Oh, Kimoshemevi Hagamara, like the Gemara brings, right? We see that they learned it from a pasuk that shchitas from the neck. right? There's Zos, Torah, and then they want to compare to Eliezer that we learn it from the pasuk about Malika. But either way, we learn it from a pasuk that shechita is from the neck. Why does the Gemara say that it's halacha l'Moshe Sinai? Says the Madura Basra. There's no the question that we're asking is not a question according to how Tosfos learns the sugya. So now we say, okay, which was Dibra Maskil Vesu, Vuhu Shehia V'Hadraza V'Chalada and all those things, right? So furthermore, that's another reason. It's another question. How can you say it's from the tail? How can you say it's from the nose? Say it's from the ear. From the ear, because we need the blood. That knife is the blood. That life, the nefesh, is coming out, and we don't have it. And also, what about the Shehiyah Hajjasa, all those specific laws that we learn, Halacha L'Moshe Sinai, that we learn as a tradition. So the Gemara says, okay, so too the Shechita, we just learn it, how you know it's from the next tradition. So it says like this. In all of everyone who's learning this, and to your reading, right? Rashi just says all it says is Visu, and furthermore, not and according to your reasoning, but and furthermore. And there's a real question according to Rashi. Because if the Shas is saying it, Umasik Dikra Asa Delo L'Shavia, and they say that the pasuk is only coming so that you don't Shabbat it off completely. V'chein b'samuch gabikra de v'zavachta, the pasuk v'zavachta, muki l'kra Delo L'Shavia Gistra. They want to say Makom Shazav Chata Chateu, the place that the blood flows, and this right. That's where you kill it, and they just say no. It's just Halacha L'Moshe Sinai. It's addition, and the pasuk is just telling me not to cut his head off. Lama li trei karlachi. Why do I need two psukim for this? Oh, what a question for that. Why do I need two psukim to tell me not to make it a gistra? I just assumed that no, this guy learns the gistra from his pasuk. That other guy learns the gistra from his pasuk. V'od the mefarish the lo shavi shelo yichtoch hatzavar im asimanim. Don't cut the neck with the simanim. Hechi mashma mi v'shachat. How do they learn that from v'shachat? Ve'od ahamai sagadaydach sheyichtoch hamifarek kes. Why would I think that you're cutting the neck after shchitos simanim after the shifter shechted and killed it? When near gears as a sovereign the garsi utamich. So want to read the word utamich. Rav Kahana Ka'amarla. It's not that Shas is responding, but Rav Kahana who's saying this. Shchita min hatzavar nami Gemara from the neck is also we just learn it out Gemara tradition. Below me azno and not from the ear. Below mechotno and not from the nose. Aval akazi lo yadinan mehechan maschil. But we still don't know. Okay, so where do you shech? I mea oref. Do you go from the back of the neck like Malika, or Manakar off the front of the neck, Besimanim, with the place where the Simanim are. V'lahachi Aza V'shachat, and this is what V'shachat is coming to tell. Lomar Magom Sach, the place where it bends. The Kaima Milza de Rav Gahara, and the Indian of Rav Gahara is Kaima. The Kaima Hajda, and the Milza of Rav Gahara, the Kaamar Minayin L'Shchita Minatzavar. He's the guy who says, how do we know Shchita Vardainu Garon? He means, I know it's from the neck. Keditnan La'el, like there's above, Shekol Atzavar, Kol Kasher L'Shchita, V'Kol Ha'ov, Kasher Malika. So, to Tosfos, Rav Kahana's question was not even, how do I know that shechita is in the neck? Because that we learn. We have people who learn that out from psukim. How do we know? According to what Rav Khan is asking is, how do we know that shechita is from the front of the neck? Maybe. Minayin l'rabos is a rosh kfarhut. How do I know to include the head that was already chopped off? It's a rosh kfarhutas. Mechlal the shechita minat stavar, so we can impose from the neck. Oh, how do I know to include the head that I have to bring the head up on the ola? Up it into nitachim. I would think maybe it's only the nitachim that also I have to skin first. How do I also bring the head that was already like cut off? And so from the fact that it's talking about the head that was already cut off, we can infer. And so that's why it says in the pasuk that you bring the pieces and the head. It specifically mentions the head. And so we see Michla, we can infer that Shechita is the Tzavar. So, right? Minayin Rabos Arosh Shekfar Hutaz. How do we know to include the head, which they checked off? Because it says, as Harosh, as Hapar, Virosho, Vipidro. What do I need it? Okay. So it says the head, the fat. The fat. Minayin the rabbis is a rosh kfar hutaz. How do I know to include the head that was already chopped off? To include that I'm going to bring onto the altar. Mashma de lo havi bichlal betach osa l'nizakah. It implies that it wasn't included in, and you split it up into pieces. Vitema, and it's a wonder. The perikama is in the first parak above. Amrina, we said Azia me rosh hashanah. We learn something from the head of the Ola. The Rachmana Amar, that the Torah says, it says that the pieces, and not the pieces of pieces, but it's talking about the head. But we just said that the head of the Ola is not included in the rest of the pieces. It didn't get skinned first. Yes, Lomar answers those votes. You can say the Hadar, the Archu b'nei Aaron HaKohen as an Etachim, he has a. So those are those answers that they went back and they mixed and they included it. So since, even though we didn't originally include head as one of the pieces that we're bringing up from the Ola, bringing to the Mishkan, bringing to the Mizbeach. But we did then go to include head because it was mentioned specifically, and so it is, in the end of the day, one of the pieces, so it's included, and so that's why the Rabbanan mentioned that we learned it from the head. It's just like one of the other pieces that we learned that you can't bring pieces of pieces. Pieces of me. Pieces of me. A Monday, I'm waiting. Tuesday, I'm waiting. Wednesday, I can't sleep. Fall, for you I fall so fast. Okay, so anyways, everyone, that was Pieces of Me by Michelle Branch.
Ashley Simpson.
All right. So we go to see the Gemara in Aleph, right? This Gemara above Tosfos put it for us. cases. It says le'el says kol atzavar kasher l'shchita, the kol ha'orev kasher l'malika, right? But that's not what we're looking for. We're just looking for this one. Next, those nine the rows, the rosh for who does that? You're bringing it up. It implies the rosh of the ola. And the Torah says l'nitachea v'lo nitzrei nitachea. Okay, so what does the pasuk say? So the Torah here is asking, Minaha Milsa, the Amor Rabara Zil Basaruba. Where do I know that thing? Rabbanan say, go after Rov. Minahan Dechsev, because it says after Rov Alahados. So the Gemara says, that's Ruba the Isa command. That like the stores, the Sanhedrin, Logo Ibai, and then it has the Sanhedrin. Also Sanhedrin, you have the Rov in the Sanhedrin. Logo Ibai, we're not asking about Ruba the Isa command, we're talking about Ruba the Leza command. Like, for example, a katan, and how do we know that they grew up? The road they get, that they grow up and get the requisite amount of hairs in a certain age. So that's the rove, and so that's what we go by. That's called the Ruba de Lesa command. Our Rabbi Lazar says we learn it from the head of the Ola to Amar Krab and Atach Osal and that you cut it to his netachim. Osal netachim, below netachim netachim. So you're to the roast, the head of the Ola. You only cut it, and you cut it to pieces. V'necho shema nikev krum shamoach. But wait a second, maybe there will be a in the brain membrane. Ella lav mishum damrinan ziyabasaruba. Rather, how do we know that you're allowed to do it? Because it says go after the majority. You can leave the head in one piece, your brain. Mi my dilma dipali le vibadagay. Maybe he checked it anyways. Imishum ozad the revelon the animina the chadach le gamre avalecha the live le sanba. Okay, and then so that's Rabbi Elazar's opinion. How do we know that there's rove? Because we cut up the pieces, but we don't cut up tiny pieces, and so we don't check all of the nevelas and treifa possibilities. So then, how do I know that this animal doesn't have a hole in his brain membrane? Rove. Says Tosfos by us. He's like, how could that Gemara on Daf Chav Zayin tell me that the head of the Ola is included in the cutting it up to pieces? We just said the head was not included in pieces because it never gets skinned. So Tosfos says, okay, it wasn't included in pieces because it doesn't get skinned, but it eventually got included anyways because it was specifically mentioned. So once it's specifically mentioned, so it is included in the pieces. And so that's why they use that as the example of what you cannot cut up to do a bedika to check to see, make sure it's not treifa. Rather, we just rely on rope. Okay. Says Tosvos. Says Tosvos. Midikamar as a rosh who does mechlal the shechita min asavar. From the fact that it says the head, which is already cut off, so we can infer that shechita is on the neck. Lo asa haitana ela lemiutes navo. He's just going to say, I'll tell you, it's not the tail. Aval lo yadina an imin atzavar o min haoreth. This is Tosfos l'shitasa. So okay, we have that pasuk. It says as a rosh. It specifically has to say as a rosh that you're bringing up the rosh when you're cutting the animal into pieces. Specifically has to say the head because the head is not skinned. And so I would think to maybe only limit the pieces that I skin because of the comparison of skinning to chopping to pieces. So it says Rosh specifically. The Gemara says from the fact that it says Rosh specifically, we can infer that shechting is from the neck. Tosfos says, yeah, that's where we learn that shechita is from the neck. But what's the question? Which side of the neck? Front one or back one? Front one or back one? Chetzi echad be'of. I'm just doing all these tastes in. This is from the Mishnah again. That you shecht half of one in a bird. Hu adin chetzi kol echad. It's also if you do half of two, right? The agav rov echad nakat chetzi echad. And since it said earlier that talking about the rov echad, or right later it's like the rov echad. So here they're talking about chetzi echad, half of one. But it could have been half of two. Still not kosher. If you cut shaking the esophagus only halfway. When we raise a nami shmiele, we also hear from the beginning the davka rov ba'ina. We need specifically majority. V'lo nakte ela agav debai lemisni echad v'chetzi. To say also it had to say one and a half of an animal. Avagav davi tzvemi rov hashnayim. Even though that's more than the majority of two. Beina kol shchitas b'pasula. Wow. Okay, so when you're shechting an animal, you got to shecht both of the pipes, or the majority of both of the pipes. So what happens if you shecht 99% of one and 49% of the other? So out of both pipes, you've shechted 147% out of 200. Still not good enough because you didn't do the majority of both. If you would shecht 51, the total would be only 102 out of 200, but it would be kosher. The other one was 147 out of 200, it wasn't kosher because it's about the majority of two. They both have to have the majority on the animal. The birds just need the majority of one. Ma'ot b'simin echad says malach lo yavdil. Right, Darius Bar Kapara, he says that today it's the Zos. The Shum Drush has got to do something with Zos. Okay. So is today Yom Chamishi?
Yeah.
Wow, what a week. Shkach Gadol. Shir's coming to an end. I can see time on the wall. But I wanted to end Shir tomorrow, next week, Mir Hashem, we will be learning about fish. At least you'll be showing them next week, Mir Hashem. But we're learning about fish. And we learned a little about fish today also, that fish don't need to be collected. But we learned mostly today in Tzipori was the biggest bird sugya in all of Shas, which is how do we know that birds are only one siman? We learn it from Moshe's hyperbole. He was mad at Am Yisrael. These guys, they wouldn't be happy even if I shechted all the animals or I collected all the fish. They say, we see from Moshe's hyperbole, shechting for an animal and collecting for the fish is good enough. And the bird, which is in between the animal and fish, so you got to do one. And I can see by the time in the wall that it's time to wish to one and all goodbye.
Goodbye.
Farewell.
Farewell.
Adieu.
Adieu.
Be good.
So long.
Stay chill.
Bye-bye.
Stay steigin.
Be warm.
Super Joe's the resistance.
At ease.
Adieu manvu.
A la prochaine.
Goodbye until we meet again. Shkayach everyone. Much love. Kol tuv. Very good.
Oh, man.
Very good.
First of all, really fascinating stuff.
What?
It's really
Oh, the biggest bird sugya?
The birds.
The biggest bird sugya in all of Shas?
Yeah,
You know,
also
and
there
Insipori.
were birds chirping at like certain times, like
Yeah.
that you couldn't hear because you were like outside, but like I could hear it inside, like certain words, like I don't know, it was crazy.
Crazy. But it feels alright.
So Floyd.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with this guy. Like, when he's gonna have to come to wait for him to come.
Should we call? What?
Check home.
What happened?
Oh, still alive. Still on Facebook, Instagram, or whatever this thing is. What's YouTube? Much love, Sky.